Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Navigating the Hidden Curriculum. I just wanted to give a quick heads up because we had a bit of a technical issue with the video portion of the video today. So you're going to notice that it cuts out. The captions are still available, so you still have those. But I apologize in advance if you really like seeing the video for these recordings. I hope you enjoy this episode. Welcome, everyone. This is Monet, the creator, and I'm excited to welcome you all to another episode of Navigating the Hidden Curriculum. I created this podcast because becoming a scientist is not necessarily the easiest path. In fact, many people have very non-linear paths, and because of this, it turns out to be a bit of a hidden curriculum. So the goal of this podcast is to share the scientific journey of others, as I believe this is one of the best ways that we can learn what the best path may be for ourselves in the sciences. I'm so excited to welcome to the show one of my best friends since starting here at Harvard, Amerria Causey. Amerria M. Causey, a PhD scholar in virology at Harvard University, has built an impressive career grounded in her Mississippi roots and dedication to advancing public health. Originally from Hollandale, Mississippi, Amerria was raised by her uncle after her parents struggled with addiction. She grew up in a town marked by stark racial divides, but also rich in history and resilience. Despite these challenges, she found pride in her community and its deep cultural heritage, which has shaped her drive to make meaningful contributions to science. Amerria earned her BS in biology with a concentration in pre-pharmacy from Jackson State University, where she graduated cum laude. She then pursued an MS in cellular and molecular biology at Towson University, where her master's thesis focused on Kaposi sarcoma-associated herpes virus and its manipulation of the immune system. Her research contributed to understanding how viral proteins impact antigen presentation, potentially helping to explain persistent infections. In addition to her scientific achievements, Amerria is passionate about empowering underrepresented students, serving on the board of Dara Ashley Foundation, which provides mentorship and scholarship to students of color. Amerria's journey in science was inspired in part by Dr. Kizmikia Corbett, who spoke to her virology class about the importance of scientific research and representation. Through her passion and dedication, Amerria aims to contribute to the understanding of viral mechanisms while paving the way for future scientists from underrepresented communities.
Boom. You got it. You know you got it.
Amerria has also received some very amazing achievements over the last few months and has some points to share on all of that. So you definitely want to stay tuned for today's episode. And again, I want to welcome to the show my girl, Amerria. All right, so let's get right into the interview. What is one of your earliest memories of your interest in science?
Oh, earliest memory, I got to give a shout out to Dr. Mara. Anybody who knows me knows I always talk about Dr. Mara, but Dr. Mara, he is a doctor now, but he was just Mr. Mara when I know him. Mm-hmm. He was my middle school science teacher. So as mentioned, I'm from a very small, rural town. And teachers, like this Teach for America program. I don't know if everybody's familiar with Teach for America, but my school and my area was one of the target areas for Teach for America. So we would always get, these spunky, new, fresh college graduates to come to little old Hollandale and teach for a couple of years. And Mr. Bear was one of those teachers, and he was the middle school science teacher, and he was really the first person to do science experiments with us, try to show us the scientific method, Yeah. So it was the first time I was like, oh, science is a thing.
Wow.
Yeah.
And how old were you?
Middle school age.
Okay.
Probably 12, 13.
Yeah. And this is so funny because I think one of our most recent episodes, I interviewed someone that did Teach for America. And this is a full circle moment. Look at how Teach for America can really impact and change people.
So I called him Dr. Maris. He was originally from Boston. So he was a Bostonian.
Okay.
He, did his undergrad, went to Mississippi, taught for 2 years. And then after that, he came up here again to go to the dental school. So he is a doctor of dentistry. He actually is a faculty member at, I don't know, some local Boston University. I can't remember which one. But I spent last Thanksgiving with him. Not this one, but the one before. Yeah.
Wow. And so from that experience, how did you know that science was the best career path for you?
I can't say that I ever knew that.
And that's okay.
Or if I know that now. But I will say, and so I guess basically what it gave me was the inclination that I'm science minded. You know what I mean? I was okay, my ear perks up to this. My mind can work around this. So initially, as you mentioned, I went to Jackson State for pre-pharmacy, and my initial goal was to be somebody's pharmacist. We thank God for pivots. That I don't think I would have felt fulfilled in that career, which is like kind of why I made the pivot. But yeah, so initially I wanted to be a pharmacist, and that mostly was just like a survival thing. I was like, okay, a pharmacist will be a career with some money.
Yep.
I'll be fine.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah.
Yeah. So as you were moving forward and realizing like, okay, I don't want to do pharmacy. Maybe I want to actually go deeper into virology. What would you say was a part of your hidden curriculum? Like what things do you know, or things that you ran into, people that you ran into that were potentially a part of this hidden curriculum for you to find out, yes, actually, I do want to do first this master's and then go get a PhD?
Yes. So like the master's was serendipitous. Junior year is when I'm like, all right, I don't want to be a pharmacist, actually. So immediately that kind of like began this like mad dash. I was like, okay, what can I do with this biology degree? Because at this point, I knew that I wasn't going to like start over, pick another major. So I was like, okay.
Yeah.
So at first, like, essentially, like, it was like in those last 2 years of undergrad, I just tried on a bunch of stuff. So, like, I tried on physician assistant, thought about maybe becoming a physician assistant. I thought about becoming a medical laboratory scientist. So those are the people who kind of like run the test, like in the hospital. Like I remember this night I shadowed in the hospital. We did a pregnancy test, and like the person came back pregnant, but they called the lab and was like, "Girl, I'm not supposed to be pregnant." I'm like, yeah, you are. But I really enjoyed that. And then so how I ended up at Towson though. So like, okay, anybody in undergrad know that like your department's going to be sending you emails, and really the T, listen to me, listener. The amount of opportunities I have gotten from just being the person to open some email, like, you know, like they send so much stuff. Like we do get like inundated with like emails, but like open the email. Open the email, even if you just glancing at it, like open the email and see what's in there, because that's how I ended up in a master's degree program. Towson University was recruiting for their Bridges to the Doctorate program.
Wow.
And
wow, that's lovely.
And Bridges is a wonderful program. It's an NIH program, but it's meant to be a bridge for like underrepresented underrepresented people in science to like stick around in the sciences. So I applied to that mostly just because like, free master's degree. I don't know what I want to do right now. So we'll just do a little free master's degree and see what I learn. So that's how I ended up in Maryland. I opened the email. Yeah.
Wow. Oh my gosh. That's so similar to like the same person. If Sade Ewell. She did Teach for America, but she also did like, she was involved in one of those programs that was for underrepresented minorities at a college in particular to help them get into research. And it was the same thing, like, I got a letter in the mail and I happened to like, wow, I might as well try. And I was like, wow, like it's so crazy how those little moments of like, I might as well. Like they're sending this email out. What if they do pick me? Like what if?
And I remember that interview weekend. It was such a blur because so I graduated undergrad in 2020, COVID baby. So this interview was like it was like the end of 2019. Like they flew me in, and essentially I get to Towson and like we in a basement. We in like the basement. Anybody who's ever been in like biology buildings, I don't know what that is, but like so many biology buildings be old and decrepit and falling apart
and dark.
Damp, like it was so damp, like it was just wet in there. But I don't know, but it was something about the Bridges program itself that kind of made me feel comfortable. Like I was in this basement, but like I was in a basement with a whole bunch of like black and brown people, and we were talking about like science and like I don't know what it's like to even try to do science. Yeah.
And so now I'm going to jump a little bit forward to, what's currently going on. So, I know that you recently had to redo your rotations due to one of your mentors having to close his lab. And I have to ask, what was that like, especially since you had already done your qualifying exam? So, at that point, you're like, all right, time to get going. And now it's like, actually, there's a pause. So what was that process like? And what tips might you have for a student that might need to change labs in general?
Yeah. So my immediate thought was panic.
Yeah.
It absolutely was a lot because my lab situation kind of immediately had a lot of moving parts. My primary mentor had a different appointment, and kind of their lab did something very unique and special, and it's kind of one of those labs that when you hear, you're like, wow, oh, they're really doing it over there. You know what I mean? So I really wanted to be a part of that.
Yeah.
However, my interest in that, the PI just did not have, the breadth. Science is really, really big, and you gotta lock in on the thing that you're good at.
Yeah.
So what she was good at and what I was good at did not necessarily align, but our ideas did, our thoughts about science did, and where we thought the project could go, but we also knew that we needed the engine of this second PI to get through the science part. So yeah, I ended up having I had to have these meeting with my program heads, and I think that they were trying to have a come to Jesus moment with me about the complexity of my mentorship situation, since she trying to get me to pick one or the other, or just be more sure about which one more aligned with where the type of research I saw myself doing and where I wanted my career to go. And I was like, oh, well, I guess when I think about it, it's, the more senior PI. And so they were like, yeah, okay, makes sense. Have that conversation. And I go in there to go have that conversation and, basically say to him, I think that I would feel more at home if I made you my primary mentor. He was like, okay, I hear that. However, my lab, is more than likely closing. I would have to, definitely tell you to think about other labs. And it's just, oh my God, I was just I don't know. I think I was just shocked. This PI is a pillar in the virology community, and kind of one of those, he's an institution, you know what I mean? Not something that I really saw ever falling, not at least not within the
your time.
The next 5 years. I definitely could tell that I was going to be one of his last students, but I did not know I was going to be the last student. But yeah. So with that though, so he was start reaching out to people and thinking and sending rotations. But I was like, no, no, let me go talk to, my other PI so we can, come up with a plan of action. So that's what I did. I talked to her second. And she was basically having a come to Jesus moment with me. She was basically holding my hand and being like, I don't the type of PhD or the type of research that I can tell works best for you is not what we do. You know what I mean? Yeah. And there's going to come a time, as you get deeper and deeper in your PhD, where you're going to need support and help, and people who can help you troubleshoot this Western blot and help you troubleshoot this, whatever. And we can't, you know what I mean? So she was like, and I need you to think about that. Don't just immediately be, things are changing. Let me just stick to what I know. No, you probably would be better off if you were to leave. And I'm just damn, she was right. And that's why I'm I really was in a situation where I had two great mentors. Cause that little amorphous, cause the more senior mentor knew kind of that his lab was closing, but all things in science are up in the air and moving and da-da-da-da. The NIH is shut down right now.
Yeah, I know.
But, so, and he had grants down the tubes or whatever. And he could have, been okay, join us and we'll see if we can get the money. You know what I mean? He could have said that. But, that would have put me in a very precarious situation, throughout my PhD, having to I don't know, pray that he gets the grant through and pray that, the lab don't shut down
right
next
now,
year.
Because it's
baby,
man.
The NIH is falling.
I know. So it's that would have been a crazy situation had you decided oh no, I'm just going to stick this out. And then like all of this news
all this
that's coming on. It's like, oh man.
Yeah. And great mentorship on the more junior PI's part in being like, you know, I don't have the expertise needed for what you want to do. So yes, that put me in a place where, all right, get some rotating. And I don't know, I immediately thought of the labs I'm in now, like when I was like, okay, where could I go? Because like me and this PI, like he chaired my qualifying exam first off. So like that's a very, you know, personal interaction with you and your science and your scientific journey. So he knew a little bit about me. And yeah, it's the type of research that it's very similar to the research that I did in Towson, where it's like it's an oncogenic virus and we're getting to like molecular mechanism, and yeah, that's the type of stuff I like to do. Yeah.
Okay.
So it ended up being a good pivot.
Yeah. And then as like you were working through that, were there any tips, or even if it was like one piece of advice that you would share to someone that is either considering switching labs or is in a situation where they have no choice and they do have to switch labs?
You have to get people's opinions for sure. Like, get the opinions of people who rotated in that lab, who are in that lab currently. Also, just like, because a lot of PIs got reputations, so like tap into your cohort. What if they heard about the PI? You know what I mean? Because it'd be some truth in the rumors for real. Talk to people. Yeah.
Okay. And so while all of this was going on, because like I said, you are stellar, you received a Fujifilm Fellowship Award. And I wanted to know and share with the viewers, like, how was that process? And how will it impact your PhD? I don't know if you also want to get into like why that particular program is an opportunity for you as well.
Yeah, I'll get into what the Fujifilm Fellowship even is. Yeah. I'm sure people are like, Fujifilm, what? So I am a member of the Therapeutics Graduate Program, which is like the secondary like certificate granting program over here at Harvard Med. And what it entails is like additional curriculum. There's also a mandatory internship that you have to do. There's other like community building things. So like we go out, have events, seminars, all the sciencey stuff. But they have a partnership with the Fujifilm Corporation, in which Fujifilm supports students that the program is saying these people got it. You know what I mean? These people are next. So I didn't have to apply for it. Love money.
Wow, that's amazing.
I did not have to do no applications, no nothing. This was purely like. The leadership of therapeutics were like, you know, we nominate Amerria.
Wow.
Amerria's next. Like, she got it. You know what I mean? So, and that fellowship will support me for 2 years. Yeah.
And does it have any other involvements or impacts for
So there
PhD?
is a little bit. So there are some commitments, whereas like, so I have to like speak with like Fujifilm reps sometime and be in those spaces. I mean, I guess beyond funding, like funding me, they're pretty hands off. There is like also the commitment of like, so therapeutics has like symposiums and the fellows have to present at the symposiums, but like any chance to talk is a
good opportunity to practice in my opinion. So that's really awesome. I just wanted to tell you congratulations again, because I don't know if I told you already, but that is amazing. And then like, dang, like, you a triple header with this, because one last achievement that I wanted to share, which is like, is it an achievement? Yes, it is. It's an achievement. That has given me my own hope in potentially winning this in the future. But is like, you won one of the affordable housing lotteries. Like, can we actually clap it up for that?
Yeah.
And so not
Amen
only
to the housing lottery,
literally, and not only is like getting accepted in a housing lottery or getting selected for one like a very hard task, but I would love if you have any tips for our viewers of what that process is like, or if at least in this Boston area, like what does that look like for someone that is wanting to try to get into those kinds of opportunities?
The first thing is for sure learning the system that you're up against. You know what I mean? Like, you gotta understand what is it that these people are looking for from you, but B, like how to even navigate, you know what I mean? What's even, because it's new words, new acronyms, new all of that. And the way that I did that was just by pure repetition. So like when I first realized that I was moving to Boston and I saw the rent prices in Boston, I immediately started applying to low income programs because I don't have any money.
Yeah.
I don't have any money. Okay. I don't have any money. So I immediately started applying to like those like wait lists and like all of that stuff. But like what I saw was that it is a long process. So I found out that I got into virology probably like January 15th of whatever that year was.
Wow, that's very early because they don't tell us until April. Like, dang.
They told us like immediately. Like the weekend was like, I think our interview weekend was like January like 10th through like the 13th, and they told us about a 15th for real.
Good Lord.
So after that, I was very, like, my PI at the time was like, girl, but I didn't do any more of my interviews. I just was like, okay, I'm moving to Boston. Like, I'm accepting my invitation to Harvard, of course. But then though is when I started like applying or like at least like Googling the affordable housing situation, starting to apply stuff. Oh, and I'm glad I didn't get none of those places because like I didn't have any understanding of like where stuff is in Boston. So like I was applying to stuff that is in like, what's that? It's not Nantucket, Natick. Girl, where even is Natick, right?
Girl,
like, I still don't know where Natick is, but like, I was applying to stuff out there, like all in the boonies, just like,
yeah, literally.
But like, that's what I knew. But like, they would come back and be like, okay, and our wait list is a year and a half long. We'll let you know. And I'm like, I'm moving to Boston in August. Like, I need housing in August. Like, what? So I did end up like finding an apartment on Craigslist that, you know, was cost effective. It was not cost effective. Yeah. But I found an apartment on Craigslist, moved into there. But like the whole time I was in there, like I never stopped applying to the low income units. And essentially like I would take any rejection and just kind of like be like, okay, next time I won't say that, or next time I won't do that, or like next time I'll, you know, send an email with this flourish on there or something. You know what I mean? Just like kept like just like the repetition of like interacting with it until like finally when it was my time, I was off the wait list. Oh my God, I remember I had this big complaint about the application because like I had made it to like the big application a couple of times. I had made it to a couple of times, but like they wanted 2 years worth of W-2s, like all my W-2s for the last 2 years. Tax. They want every single way that you interact with money. Not only do they want like, you know, like Venmo, Cash App, they wanted my Apple Pay. They needed just like anywhere that they thought I could be hoarding some money. They was like, no, you need to give me the statements. Yeah. So, but like at first though, that was like really overwhelming because like I don't even know if I couldn't have told you where to find 2 years worth of W-2s.
I know.
But this time though, like this time when I applied and they didn't even ask for all of that. Like they didn't ask for as much. Like I feel like they've been hearing people complain and like having like tweaking the application. But yeah, it was a much more streamlined application. And it moved kind of quick. So like, I found out that the unit was open maybe September. And then I spent like all October, I guess, like doing, so like, it's like 3 rounds of applications. There's like the immediate, like, okay, do you income qualify? And then there is a more in-depth, like, okay, do you income qualify? And let's see all your bank statements. Okay, then it's like, do you income qualify? And let's see all your bank statements. And let's do a credit check.
Good Lord.
So all of that took about like a month. And then, so I guess that's when I kind of like found out that I had got it. At first they told me I was gonna move in October 1st, and then like they were like, "Oh, actually, apartment's not ready. So it'll be November 1st." But I don't know. It was all in like God's perfect timing. Like it all ended up working out.
Especially with you having to like work on the rotations and then like, you know, the new semester was starting and it was moving season. Like if you know anything about Boston, you know that September 1st you do not want to be moving. around then. So yeah.
Ooh, I probably wouldn't even be able to find a U-Haul.
Exactly. Or movers.
I
don't know, road
Or
space.
I bet the movers text. Like, they probably text during, like, September 1st. Yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah.
So thank you for sharing all that, because I know that, like, that was definitely a process, and like, hopefully that can give some motivation of, like, you know, starting to keep your documentation.
So I didn't even realize how, like, real it is, the credit check parts. Because, so, like, now I'm in, like, this big Boston Black gay group chat or whatever. And they were in there talking about, like, the artist housing certification,
and which I luckily received not too long ago.
Come on. But this girl said that, like, she got the artist certification, but she made it to the credit check part. And they are serious about your credit. Like, she got denied because her credit was bad. And I'm like, dang, like, I already got low income.
Oh, no.
Like, dang. But yeah, so the credit part is important. Yeah.
Every single piece is important. All right, that's good to know. And that's probably why they keep, all right, let's do this one, this, and then the second one, let's include the last. Like, that's probably exactly why they go through all of that, just to make triple sure. But then even so, like, they still message you and said,
they made me so mad. Tell me you actually make too much money. I just feel like if I made too much money, I would know.
Yes, and so I feel like that's definitely one of those moments where it's like,
y'all are playing with me. Like, y'all are playing with me.
No, actually, like, definitely, like, advocate for yourself. Like, that's a perfect example.
I had to, but like, I knew it was all in divine timing, because like I literally got the email where they were like, you make too much money. It came in at 4:44 p.m. and I was like, I see you, God. I'm about to advocate for myself. Like, 4:44 is about working and like working hard, and like I was like, actually.
No, for real.
Actually, I don't make $81,000 a year, and I think I would
know. For real. It's like, that money don't come to my account, at least. All right, so that's enough on the achievement side. Let's get back to the science a little bit before we, hit our closing questions. So, while you have been in your study, so this can be at any stage, whether it be like when you were in an undergrad trying to figure out what's my next step, or while you were here, was there anything that you found to be difficult in feeling you are confident in your identity as a scientist?
Oh my God. So like, there's confidence as a scientist, and then there was just like my confidence in myself.
Yeah,
like,
that's so
they're
valid.
They're very linked. And it was not until I got into some therapy where I was able to be like, oh, okay, girl, you are actually smart. Listen to me. I had did a bachelor's degree, a master's degree.
See where that master's degree is going towards.
And I had got into one of the most prestigious universities in the world for my PhD. And still, when I would go into any room, I felt like I was the dumbest person in there. Like, I did. Like, I felt as though, like, there was just something inherent to me. Yeah. To where, like, I just didn't understand, and, like, I didn't know, and, like, I don't know how I keep ending up in these situations where people think I'm smart, but, like, I'm actually not. But it was not until, like, I got connected to, like, my inherent self-worth and I like started to like rewrite the narrative, because we all write this narrative about like who
or
we
the
are.
Environment writes the environment for us.
The environment also does a lot of writing of that narrative. That's true. But it's your job to rewrite it though. Like, and that's the hard part, I think, that like keeps people stuck, because like you want to continue to blame the environment and your parents and you know all the ways that things were deficient, but and you have to acknowledge that and grieve that and cry for the you that you wish would exist if the circumstances were better or greater. But like at the end of the day, you know what I mean, it's your responsibility to like, I don't know, like figure out how to really survive. Like, it's a survival thing to like be connected to your worth. Like, the type of decisions that you'll make when you're not connected to your worth will only make that spiral worse. Like, you will make decisions that prove that you are not worth it, and you'll make decisions that only support your negative worldview. So I'm very grateful for therapy. Very grateful for therapy.
Yeah, wow, that's probably extremely relatable. I mean, I can relate to that for sure. But like, it is so difficult, especially being a woman of color, being that, like, you know, you walk into these environments and no one in the room looks like you. There's always this inherent feeling of like, did they make a mistake?
I cried.
Yeah.
I cried. So like we had I think it was like, I don't know, it was like the first time my cohort was all together. And the task was, I wonder if they make y'all do the same thing, but the task was like bring a picture or whatever.
Girl,
to like,
you know, our cohort too big to be doing that. That's really nice though. That's
to
so
bring a picture
yeah.
and like talk about like how this picture describes you or whatever. I remember one girl in my cohort, she's quite the overachiever. She got bad anxiety though. Anyways.
I mean, can we be surprised?
She brought this picture and it was like her and all of her friends from like elementary school and like how they all went off to like go do PhD, like they all are doing PhDs in different spots or whatever.
Wow, yeah.
And then like my picture was just like a picture of like some like old building in like Hollandale, because I feel like it's very important to like center people in the world of Hollandale. Like it's quite a different just a different place, like a different spot on the map.
Yeah.
for real. A lot of history, but like, oh my God, like racial segregation, a lot of segregation. Like my entire high school experience, there was no other, like everybody was black, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then I went to HBCU, everybody was black. And I'm very grateful for those experiences because I feel like it kept me connected to like, at least like my black self-worth, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But then it was when I started moving in spaces with white people and I was like, oh, Lord. But it's more just like they were able to be poured into in a way that like the survival circumstances of my childhood I could not get that same, you know, thing. But that didn't make me any different than anybody else in the room, and I didn't know that, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But anyways, long story short, I cried when I showed my picture because I was like, it's so hard being the only one in the room.
Yes, it is.
And it was so funny because they was just looking at me like, like, oh, I'm not gonna say his name, but he was like, I would give you a hug, but I don't do hugs.
Okay. All right. Whatever. Anyway. Wow. Thank you for being vulnerable about that, because that is definitely, I think a lot of us go through that experience, the imposter syndrome at the end of the day of like, okay, now I'm here. Nobody looks like me. Now I'm having to like kind of prove myself and like prove myself to myself, but also to all the people around me of me being worthy to be here. Like it is a literal double-edged sword of like stress and anxiety.
But you know what's so crazy? Most people's perception of you is usually great.
Yeah.
Like they usually think you're wonderful. Yeah.
Yeah. So what tips might you have for young scientists and trainees today, especially if they're interested in, you know, getting into, I don't know if I want to say only upper echelon, but getting into like intense research and like making that either a career or a major career step for them?
I would say the earlier your exposure, the better. Like, I feel like if I would have known about REUs from freshman year, I would have been doing them freshman, sophomore. Like, I would have been doing them just every single summer.
Yeah.
Because like, I don't know, just like the more, because it would have exposed me. I feel like I would have had less pressure situations to explore different types of science. Because like, the one REU I did was not related to what I do now. Like, it was like an environmental science one in Aiken, South Carolina. Shout out to my Aiken girls. But like, I feel like I would have took more chances like that. Like, I would have been like, okay, let me see how I feel about environmental science. Okay, hated it. Let me see how I feel about, you know, a little this. Let me see how I feel about a little bit of that. So definitely a lot of that. And then also, like, I don't know if this is an academic thing, but just like the need for letters, like you need so many letters of recommendation. So, and I know it's so hard, especially like when you are a freshman or a sophomore or whatever, because like usually those lecture halls are big. So like it's like you and like 60 other freshmen who don't know nothing about nothing are in that class, and like all of y'all are asking the same professors for a letter or whatever. So you just got to figure out like how can you build a relationship, and it don't even have to, honestly, you probably have a better time freshman and sophomore year build a relationship with professors that you may be not in a class. Like, you know, seek out the ones who like look like you, or like maybe teach like a higher level class in something that you want to do,
Exactly,
and then like
yeah.
just start building a relationship. Like science is very relational.
Yeah, yeah, and that's definitely part of the hidden curriculum. It's like knowing that, like, okay, I'm in this lecture hall. There's all these students here, but at the same time, I need to figure out how. You don't necessarily have to stand out, but you do need to put yourself out there.
You do.
And it can
they just
be
need
very
to know
scary.
who you are, because
exactly.
like it's impossible to write a letter for student 45. You know what I mean? Like
yeah,
it just
exactly,
is. Yeah,
exactly. So very important. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
And before I get into our closing questions, I'm just curious. So you're currently in your PhD right now. What are your career goals after you finish up here? Let's think about the future.
Yeah, so as mentioned, I'm a member of the Therapeutics Graduate Program. We actually just finished up our J-term class as a part of the curriculum on drug discovery, and it was so fun. It was so fun.
Wow,
I mean, so like the group project at the end was like we had to come up with our own drug and like give a pitch to like bring it to market or whatever.
Yeah, that's fun.
Yeah, and then like, oh my God, all the lectures were taught by like industry leaders. Like at one point we had like a FDA advisory committee, like mock committee meeting or whatever.
Wow, no, that's
but
so
it was
cool.
headed by the chair of the FDA advisory committee. Like he came to teach our class. You know what I mean? Like it was so fun.
And that's that resources at Harvard kind of thing. Like that is really that.
That's
like,
very true. Yeah.
So blessed and grateful for that. But sorry to interrupt. I know.
Yeah.
So.
But yeah. So TGP though has like kind of introduced me to like other careers that you can do as a scientist. So right now my interest is definitely in venture capitalism.
Yep.
Like I would like to go into these like finance heavy spaces and kind of be like the voice of reason type. You know what I mean? Like I'm very grateful in like my very like basic biology, molecular biology heavy training, because I feel like it's gonna make me kind of like a chameleon in these spaces, because like I understand how a cell works, you know what I mean? Like, you gotta get to, like, how, how's the protein being packaged? Okay, how does that, go with, like, how we want our drug to work? You know what I mean? And all this stuff. So I want to be in those spaces and be the person to be like, no, I think your idea is bad, actually. I don't want to see it come to market.
Yeah, but at the same time, I think it's very beautiful, because at the end of the day, that is like a science communication kind of space as well, because you're bridging that gap that is like, okay, this is like the drug's mode of action and what it does and how it helps people and the cost, but then also bridging like, this is why it's important for this to be on the market. This is why it's not important for this to be on the market. This is why we shouldn't be charging this amount to the patients, because XYZ, look at these populations that struggle from that. Like, with your experience and background, that is an amazing career option, I must say.
And it brings me excitement to think about. I mean, not only that, like, I know it's going to be a space where, like, I will be paid fairly for the amount of school that I have been in. And I think it's just going to be really fulfilling. Like, when I think about it as like a cutesy thing. So that's probably what I'll do my my internship on.
And that's amazing that the therapeutics program offers that as well, an internship, because now you get to
they
literally
match
test
you.
that out. Yeah,
they match you. They do all the hard work of finding the internship and all of that. Like even so, like after in our group project for that J-term class, they also paired all the groups like with the industry leader to like help us, think about our drug or whatever. But the second class was over with, the lady emailed us and was like, if any of y'all want to work at Novartis, like reach out to me. Like I can get you in touch with the people who work on, what you like to do. And yeah.
Wow, that's amazing. Gotta love like the resources that are available at these institutions, because that's honestly that's what you pay for. That's what like you work so hard for. It's like now you have like all these opportunities available to you, and it's like, okay,
let's look at the
one?
room. Like,
let's look at the room. Look at the room and look at yourself and say like, I belong here, and I can do XYZ. I can do great things. I can find what resources match best for me. So that is amazing. So I have some closing questions that I like to ask everyone. So what is something that you wish you could tell yourself regarding your career in science? Your younger self, sorry.
I think I would tell like freshman year old me at Jackson State University.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, I feel like she had the stuff. Like, she really had the stuff in that, like, that resilience bone was there very early. Like, I was telling my auntie, because we be talking about like college and stuff.
Yeah.
Because her and her daughter went to college. We both were at Jack State around the same time. So we were talking about like something, and I was like, "Oh, when did that happen? Oh, I think that was sophomore year because I didn't pass that class." Y'all, I had to take this chemistry class 5 times. I had to take that class.
Let that be a word to anyone that wants to apply for like these upper echelon institutions and is worried about, oh, I didn't do this, let that be a word. Anyways,
child, transcript got D's, F's, C's. But like it was that like I shudder to think what would have happened if I would have been like, no, science isn't for me. I'm about to pivot. I'm about to do something else. Like, but instead, I was like, no, I'm about to take it again.
Yeah.
And I'm about to take it again. And I'm about to take it again. And that's the type of stuff that you need for like your experiments. Because like you got to do it again. You got to go do it again.
And maybe that's the way that they see it when they look at the transcript and they see you take that class like multiple times and you don't give up. Maybe that's what they see. I've never thought about that before.
No, and I think that the admissions process is very holistic. I think like they really are trying to get like the best mixed mosh of people. Yeah.
Wow, that's so encouraging. I love that. What is the worst advice that you have received in the sciences?
Yes, I love telling this story. So this is also around the time. This is like also like junior year. I was curious about like research, and there was this researcher at Jackson State who like posted up like flyers and was like, join my lab. So I'm like, okay, yeah, I'll come join the lab. It was a computational lab.
Oh boy.
Girl, I didn't stay there very long, you guys. But anyways, I'm talking to the PI, and I'm like, I'm trying to, I'm telling him like I'm trying to think about, like what's next for me, where do I want to go, like, da. And he looked at me and said, well, I actually don't usually tell my female students to go get PhDs because those are their childbearing years. Yeah.
Okay.
And I just remember being like so baffled when he said that, because I'm like, he was like much more worried about like my future husband and his comfortability and like if we was gonna have kids more than me, who was like real and standing in front of him and like not this like fictional patriarchal version of me. But you had it all wrong, actually. Like it was all incorrect. But yeah, I didn't stay in that lab very long. But like that was definitely like the worst advice.
Yeah.
Go get your PhD if you want to go get your PhD.
Oh my goodness. And like there's always...
You can have a baby and still go get your PhD.
No, that's the thing. Like, first of all, I know people who have had children or gotten married or had very major life decisions happen while in their PhD program.
Oh my God, this girl I know. Oh my God, this is Jen's friend. I can't remember her name for the life of me now. I just know her as like Jen's friend. But she gave birth and 2 weeks later had her qualifying exam.
Wow.
You could do it, baby. And she passed.
And she passed. I feel like I saw a post of a woman that like had her dissertation, like gave birth either the same day or the day before, had the baby in her arms. Like if they can do it, and that's always the stories, like, if she can do it, then I can do it too. And they always say like, don't let graduate school like stop you from these major life events and stuff like that. And it's true, because it can consume a lot of your time. And for you to keep, I'll push it off. You don't know what kind of opportunities, what kinds of relationships, possibilities, and just your life that you're missing out because you're just so committed to graduate school. That's definitely...
that's definitely a piece of advice I would ever say. Do not let grad school take your life. Like, it should be an aspect of your life. Truly, you got to compartmentalize it like it is a job, because that's what it is. Like, you're being paid to do a job.
Yep.
And do it like that. Like, honestly, I've been kind of 9 to 5 in it. I'm probably about to have to 9 to 6 it. Mostly just so I can get the research done. The science do be calling, but still, like, even in that, like, I still make time for, friends. We hang out, making new friends, seeing the city, traveling. Like, you got to, or else it'll zap your happiness.
Exactly.
It'll zap your happiness.
You have to pour into yourself. That's honestly what it is. Because if you
science
don't,
asks so much of us. You know what I mean? Like, it really does. Like, if you, and especially if you get into that zone. So, like, this is the zone I was in Towson, and I had a very unhealthy relationship like with the bench at this time, but it was just like hammering, and like I didn't care if I was sleeping, I don't care if I didn't eat, like I was in the lab doing experiment. And you suffer for that, and just because you like are approaching the experiment with brute force don't mean you're going to get on the other side of it. Like, just because you like, you know.
Yeah, literally.
Like, just because you try more.
Yeah, like literally some advice that I've received is like, okay, like you could either spend 2 months working really hard trying to do this experiment and then have like a subsequent 4 months where you're trying to figure out what happened, or you can really like plan it out, take your time and take the same amount of time to actually get good data done and like just be better mentally and physically. Like, and it's a hard juggle because you have to find like what is that like work amount, that expectation for myself of progress that is enough but not pushing me too far, but it's also like, you know, you're juggling a lot in grad school. Like you're juggling classes, you might have an additional job, you might have other responsibilities,
a little babe,
exactly, you
2
might
babes maybe,
or a long-term partnership, which can also just like, or long distance partnership, which can also just be challenging, or family and commitments that you also want to, you know, spend time with, and it can just be really, really challenging to juggle all of that. But don't let graduate school like continually block those blessings of the other things in your life.
Because I promise you,
I
don't know if it's, so like I pick a certain type of PI. Like, I'm very particular about the type of PI that I like to be around because I need you to be self-actualized. Yeah. And like, you got to have a healthy relationship with work in order for me to be like, okay, I want to be in your lab. So I usually pick granddaddies, somebody 70 plus.
Yeah.
Or like a female PI who has children. So like, inherently has to have a life, you know, outside the bench because, like, you know, their kids are calling them. Yeah. But yeah, so that's my advice on picking.
So I guess, like, I don't know if you want to add any best advice because that was going to be my next question after the worst advice you ever received, unless you want to.
Oh, best advice I received in science? Oh, I feel like I will say, like, the good advice has definitely outweighed the bad advice. People want to see you succeed. Like, they really want to see you succeed. Best advice. So much is coming up. Like, I'm feeling like I'm hearing some Nipe-isms. So like when I first joined TGP, the more senior PI was like, you know, he basically was like, he didn't want me to become too wrapped up in like getting credentials and and chasing that when like, because he was like, he feels like the PhD was the time when he was the most immersed in like science, and like it was like it's like it's a lot of value in like just like allowing yourself to be immersed in kind of like this time period. Because like there's no other time when you'll be doing your PhD. Like it's a terminal degree, so you know that's the end of it. Congratulations, you won academia. Yeah, and yeah, so. Yeah, I think that's what it is. Maybe just like enjoy the moment for what it is. Like be in the present of it. And of course, you know, because it takes, you know, some planning to get here. So don't stop planning, but like also along with your planning, be in today.
Yeah. And as both of us are people who will no longer be at the bench after we
getting away from
like,
the bench.
Like with that in mind, like
the bench is very unforgiving. She's too unforgiving for me. Like I need to be able to make some mistakes.
I do think like I have been trying to approach it with the mindset of like, you know, I'm very grateful for this point in time, because at the end of the day, like this next 2.5 years is gonna be my last time at the bench, and I like this is where it all started. Like I have worked so hard.
For every scientist, like there's also some reverence in that. Every scientist that you're coming into terms with has been exactly where you are. Like they also had to be at the bench working something now to impress their committee, or else they wasn't gonna graduate. You know what I mean? Yeah. So yeah.
And the last question that I have, and this is always an interesting one to hear people's answer to it. If you could require all scientists to know a fact or receive a certain training or take a certain class, what would it be? What is something that all scientists should be able to do?
If you're gonna be, I feel like a lab, like an academic lab type person, because like, so scientific training trains people to become scientists. You know what I mean? But it does not train them to become a manager, which is essentially what they become. You know what I mean? Like they become the boss of like this lab. You know what I mean? So I think they just need some HR.
No.
They need some human resources for real. Like, figure out how to deal with a student that's crying in front of you. You know what I mean? Because it's going to happen. And yeah.
No, that's so true. I definitely agree with that. And a lot of people have been saying that more recently. Like, it's like you get all the science training. That's great. You might get some mentorship training along the way. But the actual
maybe
lab
some
management, the fact that you have to, okay, I started a lab. I have money now. I need to hire people. I need to get equipment. I need to, like, all of those things that you never had to do as a PhD. It's all of a sudden, like, on your plate. And there's not really any training in place for PIs to kind of transition to that. And yes, there are some attempts at, like, training programs or, like, support postdoc kind of grants now.
There's like those early faculty type, you know,
kind of things,
type mentorship programs.
Yeah.
Because I think now like all like the new faculty get like a buddy or something like that.
Yeah.
But
they're trying, they need to get with the program faster for sure.
Little human resources, little DEI.
Yeah. A little bit of that. So with that in mind, that's all I had for the episode today, unless you had anything else you wanted to share. And it's fine if not.
No, I'm like, what do I want to leave the people with? I feel like if God has given you a dream, like,
or a talent,
just pursue.
Yep.
Just pursue. Like, you don't know where it's gonna go. Like, so like, I was always heralded in my very small town for my smarts. Like, that's always what people are like, Amerria, you're so smart. Like, you know, and I'm glad that, like, that was something I could kind of hear, you know what I mean? Because, like, it allowed me to chase that. And it ended up someplace that I would have never imagined.
Yep.
I would have never...
Yep.
From Hollandale to Harvard, I would have never.
From Hollandale to Harvard. That's gonna need to be the memoir. That's gonna need to be from Hollandale to Harvard.
Like,
what?
I never saw that
amazing.
for me, but it's because like God's plan are so much bigger, so much bigger. But like if you got the desire, it's because He placed it there, and chase it.
Yeah, you sound a lot like me right now.
Yeah.
Alrighty, thank you so much for sharing and being
so
vulnerable
cute.
and all of this. Like, I really appreciate you spending the time to do this episode with me. And to our audience, thank you for tuning into another episode of Navigating the Hidden Curriculum. Check out the show notes for more on Amerria. She actually had an article published recently, so I'm going to throw that in the show notes too. Her work, along with my other social media platforms to stay connected with me and other podcast episodes. Thank you again, and bye-bye.
Okay, that's a wrap.
Yup. Okay.